There's a strong man.
I think I'm Jew.
Where'd you come from anyway, huh?
Hello? Go to class. Come on, let's go.
In this neighborhood? I probably got detention because you took my stuff. How do you know I took it? Stop! Got him. The next time the teachers ask you what happened, you don't say anything. Don't care! So you can go cry to your little mommy.
Vincent McKenna is a middle-aged, washed-up war veteran weighed down by a massive list of terrible life choices. Having completely given up on caring, he drifts through life drunk, broke, and totally directionless. Therefore, his daily routine consists entirely of sitting at local dives, pounding drinks, and blowing his remaining cash on gambling. "You always lose, man," a barfly points out. Vincent just shrugs. "It seems like you'd be comfortable by now." Therefore, when a pregnant sex worker named Daka stops by his place to hang out, it's pretty much his only source of social interaction. Daka's client base is practically non-existent, and she constantly cracks jokes about how only a very specific demographic is looking for someone in her situation. Vincent slaps a sad stack of bills into her hand, which is nowhere near enough. Daka rolls her eyes, informs him she isn't running a clearance outlet, and tells him she'll see him later. Therefore, Vincent heads to the bank to handle his finances, only to get slapped with the news that his account is completely frozen for blowing way past his credit limit. He aggressively demands to close the account on the spot, but the teller politely reminds him that you can't just close an account when you owe the bank money. That night, Vincent is back at the bar, but the bartender cuts him off and refuses to run a tab given his staggering alcohol intake. "You're not gonna serve me? Don't be like that," Vincent whines. Therefore, after doing a sad, solitary dance in the middle of the empty bar, he gets behind the wheel completely hammered, smashes straight into his own front fence, and parks on the lawn like it's a totally normal driveway. Inside, he tries to make another drink, crushes his finger trying to break ice, slips on a stray cube, and immediately knocks himself cold on the floor. The next morning, Vincent is jerked awake by the chaotic noise of a moving crew outside. Therefore, he stumbles out to his yard, bleeding, disoriented, and hungover, only to find that a giant tree branch has crushed his car. He's confronted by Maggie, his new middle-aged neighbor, who admits her moving company caused the disaster. Vincent points out the wrecked car, broken fence, and shattered tree, scoffing that there's no way she can pay for this. Maggie ignores the attitude and agrees to cover the fence and the tree. Shortly after, Maggie walks her son, Oliver, to the bus stop, casually letting him know he's on his own getting home because she won't be able to pick him up. Therefore, Oliver is thrown straight into the deep end at St. Patrick's, his new Catholic school. Introduced to the class and asked to lead a prayer, Oliver awkward announces he's actually Jewish. The teacher casually waves it off, declaring all faiths are welcome, so Oliver drops a brief prayer before the lesson immediately pivots to Catholic saints. Meanwhile, Vincent continues his speed run to rock bottom by losing another bundle at the racetrack. Therefore, a loan shark corners him on the spot, reminds him of his massive debt, and gives him an aggressively short deadline to pay up or suffer the consequences. Back at school, Oliver gets utterly destroyed in gym class, making him an immediate target for the school bullies. Therefore, when he finally gets home, he discovers the bullies stole his keys and all his stuff. Unable to get into his own house, Oliver is forced to walk over to the messy wreck of Vincent's house to ask if he can use the phone to call his mom. Maggie doesn't answer, so Oliver leaves a message saying he'll stay with their neighbor. Vincent isn't thrilled about the situation, but when Maggie calls back asking if Oliver can stay for a while, he agrees on the condition that he's paid hourly. "I'm not a charity," he snaps. Therefore, with no other option, she accepts. Despite Vincent's rough nature, Oliver manages to connect with him in small ways, even earning the trust of his cat. Vincent feeds him a strange version of dinner, and when Maggie arrives later, Vincent takes the money without much conversation, questioning her about leaving her son alone and asking about his father. She explains their recent move and their separation. Therefore, Vincent eventually agrees to watch Oliver regularly, for a fee of course. At home, Maggie and Oliver talk about this arrangement, with Oliver admitting that Vincent is actually kind of fun, even if he's grumpy. In a grouchy sort of way, Oliver adds. Elsewhere, Daka continues working despite her pregnancy, struggling to make ends meet and worrying about the future. At school, the children discuss what it means to be a saint, sharing their thoughts and examples. Maggie plans to pick Oliver up, but work keeps her late, forcing her to rely on Vincent again. Therefore, on the way home, Vincent lays down some ground rules. "You're not buckled," Vincent points out. "My life is my problem." Then he makes a quick pit stop, handing Oliver coins mixed with cigarette butts to call his mom from a payphone. While he's there, Oliver runs into his classmates. One of them, Robert, confronts and insults him. Therefore, Oliver reacts by slapping him, which immediately leads to him getting beaten up. As they leave, Vincent questions Oliver about defending himself and learns that his father is a strict pacifist. Soon after, Vincent takes Oliver to a care facility to visit a woman named Sandy. Without much explanation, he has Oliver help him with her laundry. Sandy mistakes Vincent for her doctor, and he plays along, chatting with her and complimenting her. Oliver joins in, and together they handle her belongings, completely ignoring the staff telling them the facility has its own laundry services. Later, Vincent begins teaching Oliver how to defend himself, insisting it's a necessary skill even if the boy is reluctant. Meanwhile, Maggie faces new troubles when she's served legal papers from her ex-husband, who is seeking full custody of Oliver. Overwhelmed, she breaks down in tears. Daka, during a routine medical visit, learns she's having a baby girl, which brings her immense joy despite her financial struggles. Vincent, unable to use his insurance to cover her medical expenses, hands her a small stack of cash instead. When Maggie picks Oliver up one day, she finds him mowing Vincent's lawn. Vincent's unconventional idea of teaching responsibility. Surprisingly, Oliver actually enjoys it. At school, tensions peak when Robert attacks Oliver again during gym class. Therefore, this time Oliver fights back, putting his new training to use and knocking Robert out cold. Proud of himself, he rushes home to tell Vincent and demonstrate what he learned. When he asks about Daka, Vincent casually explains what she does for a living. Soon after, Vincent takes Oliver straight to the racetrack to teach him how to bet on horses. Therefore, when they end up winning big, Vincent forces Oliver to pretend they lost everything so a nearby loan shark won't spot the cash. They quickly grab their winnings and leave. Vincent uses the money to settle part of his debt at the bank and even opens a savings account for Oliver. The two celebrate their win with ice cream before heading back to the bar to unwind. Meanwhile, Maggie receives an urgent call from the school regarding Oliver's fight. She tries calling Vincent, but he isn't answering. Unaware of the panic, Vincent is still at the bar with Oliver, where the boy casually asks for another soda while Vincent orders another drink. The bartender steps in, sternly reminding Vincent that the bar isn't an appropriate place for a kid. Irritated, Vincent downs his drink, squeezing the glass so hard it shatters in his hand, cutting him deep. Back at the house, Maggie is waiting outside, visibly anxious and frustrated after having no idea where her son was. When she asks Vincent about the school fight, he offhandedly mentions that Oliver said something about it. Furious that she wasn't informed, Maggie demands to know why he didn't call her, but Vincent bluntly fires back that she's always too busy working to notice anyway. With no one else stepping up, Maggie ends up covering the cab fare herself. Soon after, Maggie meets with Oliver's principal and teacher to discuss the incident. As they ask about Oliver's home environment, Maggie opens up about her situation. Her ex-husband was unfaithful and never wanted kids, so she adopted Oliver on her own. Now her ex is fighting for full custody, and because he's a successful lawyer, he has a massive advantage in court. Desperate to keep some stability in Oliver's life, Maggie pleads for him to remain enrolled at the school. As punishment for the physical altercation, the principal orders Oliver and Robert to scrub toilet bowls together. The gross, tedious chore surprisingly breaks the tension between the two boys. Robert admits he only acts out because he hates the embarrassing nickname a teacher gave him years ago, while Oliver opens up about his parents' messy separation and missing his dad. By the end of detention, Robert gives Oliver back his stolen belongings and even asks if he can learn some of the fighting moves Oliver used on him. Elsewhere, Vincent visits Sandy at the care home and takes her on a quiet trip out to the lake. The two share a gentle, affectionate connection, even as her memory constantly drifts in and out. Afterwards, the facility manager corners Vincent to remind him that the nursing home is extremely expensive and requires advance payment. Money Vincent simply doesn't have. He tries to negotiate, but the manager coldly informs him that Sandy will be transferred to a low-cost state facility if the bill isn't settled. Before heading out, Vincent hands a nurse some cash and asks her to keep fresh flowers in Sandy's room. The moment her back is turned, he swipes several bottles of prescription medication from her desk. He brings the stolen meds straight to Daka, asking her to sell them on the street. However, the cash she brings back is nowhere near enough to cover the debt. Out of options and spiraling, Vincent makes a desperate move. He withdraws the entire balance from Oliver's new bank account and bets it all at the track, losing every last cent. When Vincent stumbles back home, the loan shark and an enforcer are already inside tearing the place apart. Finding nothing of value except a few pieces of jewelry, the loan shark begins to threaten him. Mid-argument, the overwhelming stress catches up to Vincent, and he suddenly collapses to the floor. Assuming the old man is having a fatal heart attack, the loan sharks panic and flee the scene. Later that afternoon, Oliver walks over to the house and finds Vincent lying unconscious on the floor. Vincent is rushed to the hospital where Maggie works, where doctors confirm he has suffered a severe stroke. A long, painful recovery begins. Back at St. Patrick's, the students continue their project on modern-day sainthood. Oliver sits at his desk, carefully preparing his final presentation as the class debates what truly makes a person worthy of being called a saint. He's someone important, even if he doesn't see it himself. After Oliver leaves, Vincent is left alone again. So Oliver sneaks Vincent's cat into the hospital to cheer him up, leading to light-hearted moments like a competitive wheelchair race down the hallway, which Vincent naturally wins. Eventually, Vincent is discharged and returns home on a walking cane, stunned to find his house spotlessly cleaned. Daka, having prepared a proper meal, moves in to care for him in exchange for room, board, and a basic living arrangement. Meanwhile, Maggie faces her ex-husband in court. Under questioning, she explains that Vincent is just a neighbor, but she is caught completely off guard when opposing counsel presents photos of Vincent taking Oliver to racetracks, dive bars, and strip clubs. The situation turns worse when Oliver innocently blurts out Daka's profession in open court. Afterward, a furious Maggie confronts Vincent for jeopardizing her custody case, while Vincent fires back that Oliver needs a mother who is actually present. Hurt and angry, Maggie forbids Oliver from seeing him. Shortly after, Vincent receives urgent voicemails from the care home and rushes over, only to learn Sandy passed away weeks ago and was cremated. Devastated, he takes her ashes to the beach where they once spent time together, lost in quiet reflection. Life moves forward as Maggie manages split custody. Oliver sneaks away to visit Vincent, offering his condolences. Vincent admits he never understood that phrase, wishing people would ask what truly mattered, who Sandy was and how much he misses her. Vincent warns Oliver not to follow in his footsteps, but Oliver firmly disagrees, seeing Vincent as a genuine mentor. Later, life surrounded by memories, he gathers Sandy's belongings and throws them away, though it's clear how much she truly meant to him. Oliver later discovers an old photograph of Vincent as a soldier in Vietnam, hinting at a past far more complex and heroic than it seems. At school, preparations begin for a major presentation titled, Saints Among Us. Inspired, Oliver starts researching Vincent's life, speaking directly to the people who know him best, at the bar, at the care home, and even Daka. Joined by his school friends, Oliver even helps repair Vincent's broken front fence. Despite the ongoing custody battle, Oliver remains hopeful and focused on his project. On the day of the presentation, everything falls into place. Maggie takes time off work to support her son, and they share a quiet, peaceful morning together. Meanwhile, total chaos erupts elsewhere when Daka suddenly goes into labor, forcing Vincent to rush her to the hospital in a frenzy. Back at St. Patrick's, the event begins. Oliver's family, friends, and members of the community gather in the audience. Vincent arrives just in time, slipping into the back of the auditorium to watch Oliver step up to the microphone. With deep sincerity and conviction, Oliver tells Vincent's story. He doesn't hide the old man's flaws, but instead highlights his hidden kindness, his sacrifice, and the profound impact he's had on everyone around him. Photos of Vincent's life project onto the screen behind him, including moving moments with Sandy. Overcome with emotion, Vincent watches from the crowd as Oliver builds a powerful case for why this flawed, broken man deserves to be recognized. In the end, Oliver officially nominates him as Saint Vincent, a man who, despite everything, made a real difference. The auditorium erupts in thunderous applause. Moved beyond words, Vincent walks down the aisle to the stage. Oliver places a medal around his neck, and the two share a heartfelt embrace as the crowd cheers. Gradually, a warm circle of support forms around Vincent. At the hospital, Oliver playfully demonstrates a card trick he learned, though Vincent reminds him of the importance of honesty. Daka gives birth to a healthy baby girl, bringing an overwhelming sense of hope and new beginnings to the household. They all gather at Vincent's house for a meal, sharing laughter and conversation. When asked to say a prayer over the food, Vincent pauses, unsure, then quietly declines and continues eating. Later, alone in the backyard, he listens to music, lights a cigarette, and for once, looks completely at peace, finally allowing himself a moment to simply exist and enjoy life. And that brings us to the end of a 2014 movie called St. Vincent. Thanks for watching. I have left a recommendation on the screen there, please check it out.